Roll call, please.
Gasson,
Here.
Hauser, Salvia, Bachman,
Here.
Clauser,
Here.
Hardin,
Here.
Kenjuk,
Here.
Murphy,
Here.
Stone.
Got a quorum. We'll start now with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all join me, that would be great. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. This is a point in the meeting where we'll have public comment. If you have anything to say to the commission that doesn't really pertain to any of the public hearings, now would be the time. No one? Is there anyone online, Rose?
There is no one online.
Okay, we'll move on to the next, which is approval of meeting minutes from the regular meeting of August 4th. We all have that in our packet. Is there any questions, comments, or motion?
I would make the motion to accept the minutes.
We have a support? Support. And support. Okay, roll call, please.
Gasson,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Clauser,
Yes.
Hardin,
Yes.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you. We have two public hearings tonight. The first is for 313 South Street, site plan and facade changes. Is applicant in the audience? Excellent. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting, the public hearing to order, and then we'll hear the planner's comments. Public meeting is at 7:01. Okay, Vidya, if you could introduce it from a planning standpoint, that would be great.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Gasson, members of the commission. The request before you tonight is from Design House Architects to make changes to an existing industrial building on South Street. I will share the site plan on the screen so you can follow along. The applicant is proposing a 503 square foot rear addition to the building and also a second story addition, which is 600 square feet towards the front of the existing building for a total building area of approximately 3,300 square feet. The site is really small. It's less than a quarter of an acre and it's zoned I2 industrial district. The use of the site is for warehousing of equipment and supplies that are related to the tenant's private business and associated office, and that would be a principal permitted use under the current zoning regulations. The existing parcel is non-conforming with respect to both the lot area and lot width. This is an existing legal non-conformity that is not being altered in any way, so it can remain as is. With regard to setbacks, the existing building is non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback and also the side yard setback, which is 0 on the side yard, and the front yard is 4.5 feet. Now, because the proposed addition is going on top of the footprint of the existing building, and the proposed addition is following along the same wall lines of the existing building, the proposed additions are also non-conforming. Because of the narrowness of the lot, it is simply not possible to build a conforming addition on the site. So the applicant appeared before the Zoning Board of Appeals on June 25th and obtained variances to expand the non-conforming structure when the proposed expansion also does not meet the ordinance standards, a variance for the front yard setback, a variance for the side yard setback, and then they received a fourth variance, but the ordinance calls for the preservation of a 30-foot landscape stabilization zone adjacent to Clinton River. Now, this entire site is located within the 100-year floodplain. So compliance with the 30-foot landscape stabilization zone does not currently exist on the site. The applicant is not altering that, but they cannot possibly comply with it either. So the Zoning Board of Appeals did grant them a variance from that item 2. With regard to vehicle access, the site's frontage on South Street is basically an expanse of pavement which is contiguous with all of the sites next to it. It is a very narrow access drive. It's only 12 feet wide, but it serves as two-way movement of vehicles. All of the parking is in the rear of the site itself. So there is a single overhead door that is shown on the front facade. This is an existing location to the overhead door. The applicant is showing the loading unloading area right in front of the building. This is an existing situation. It is not possible to move this dock door elsewhere on the building and make the site still function for truck circulation and provide the required parking. So the applicant has left the overhead door where it is. And they have added a note, as we previously required them to, that South Street will not be used for maneuvering during loading, unloading activity. That basically means once the truck is docked over here for any activity, it cannot project onto the right-of-way areas. And the applicant has added that note to the plan itself. With regard to pedestrian circulation, there is no sidewalk along the site's frontage, and there are no sidewalks along the north side of South Street in this area. So at this time, we are not requiring a sidewalk because it's going to serve really no purpose or connection. And the fact that there is only 4.5 feet, a typical public sidewalk is required to be 5 feet in width. There's really no room right now to put it in there. But we do want to reserve the right on behalf of the city that in the future, if ever South Street is improved and the roadway width is adjusted to provide a sidewalk, at such time the applicant needs to join in the city's effort or put in the sidewalk that is required along their site's frontage. This has been done for other properties on South Street, many of them on the south side of South Street. So the city attorney has got an agreement template, and this is something we would recommend the applicant has to execute with the city. There is no timeline for this. If and when South Street is developed, that requirement or agreement will come into play. Based upon the use of the building for warehouse and office, the site requires a total of 6 parking spaces. The site plan shows all 6 parking spaces, including 1 handicap accessible space on the north side of the building. The applicant has clarified that the door that is on the north side of the building is at grade and will be barrier-free accessible. So handicap access can be provided from the rear of the building. The site currently does not have a dumpster, and the limited use of the site probably does not require a dumpster. However, the applicant has to address proposed method of trash removal when they make their presentation before the Planning Commission to clarify how trash is going to be removed from the site. A photometric plan has been submitted, and all of the fixtures that are going to be installed are downward directed and shielded and meet ordinance standards. With regard to architecture, this building is currently in a state of disrepair. It is an old building that is built of block and has not been improved in a really long time. So the applicant is actually, previously the applicant had proposed covering the entire building with EFS. EFS is not a durable material, and we told the applicant that that would not be an acceptable material. As the Planning Commission recollects, I have constantly reiterated that this site is located in an area designated as a research technology in the new to be adopted zoning map. And as such, the architectural quality of the building needs to be higher. In response, the applicant has improved the facade to show at this time the existing block is going to be repaired and it's going to be painted white. And the proposed addition is going to be constructed of black metal panels. They have also included windows on the entire front facade to give it the illusion that all of it is an office use. The proposed changes to the building significantly modernizes what is currently there on the site and is closer aligned with what would be required of a building that is located in the RTech district itself. With regard to landscaping, the site has got minimum room for landscaping, so the only landscaping proposed is along the site's frontage. And that frontage, I will scroll back, this is the landscape plan. The applicant is proposing a single maple tree and a row of shrubs that comprise of spirea bushes and buttonbush red maple. These are colorful ornamental shrubs that will provide for additional visual appeal in front of a building that is basically black and white. At the time we reviewed this plan previously, we had asked for information regarding signage, any ground or wall-mounted signage. At the time, the applicant had noted that the information will be provided with site plan review, but I don't see the information on the set of plans that I received. There is minimal area, as I previously mentioned, along the site's frontage. It's less than 5 feet. So there is basically no room on this site to put in a ground monument sign that will not obstruct vision on the street. The sign cannot be placed within the right-of-way area. So it is our recommendation that if the applicant is going to install a sign, the sign must be a wall sign. It cannot be a ground monument sign because it will not fit on the site. Any sign that is installed needs to be approved by city's administration before it is installed on the building. For the applicant, there is really no change in impervious surface area on the site, so stormwater detention is not required in addition to what currently is the situation on the site itself. However, I deferred that to the city's engineer to confirm that no additional stormwater runoff calculations are required for the site. Based upon our review of this proposal, it is a very small, non-conforming site with many, many challenges. As a result, any development on the site is going to be severely limited. Based upon the limitations, the applicant has done a pretty good job of trying to propose additions to the building that would elevate what currently exists on the site and bring it closer in alignment to what we would hope South Street would look like in the future. So it is our recommendation that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the proposed addition and facade change to 313 South Street, subject to the following conditions: clarification regarding the proposed method of trash removal, and consideration of installation of a wall sign rather than a monument sign, and submission of all signage for administrative approval prior to installation. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya. We'll come back to you with questions as they arise, okay? Now, if we can hear from the applicant and respond to those comments that she brought up, and any other information you'd like to provide would be wonderful. If you start off with your name and address, too.
Of course. Sal Lorenzano, Design House Architecture. Thank you, everybody. Vidya did a fantastic job going over the proposed project here. In regards to the trash removal, it's just going to be public rollout, just going to the curb. As far as the signage goes, we were informed by the client that we weren't going to put any more signs on the property, and he was going to leave that as signless. But to your point, if there is anything proposed, we will have that administratively approved through you guys as such. And then what was the other question? I apologize.
I think those are the questions, but the other item mentioned was, I guess, maybe confirm agreement with the sidewalk for future implementation.
Yeah,
That would be the
yeah,
other
and I can't necessarily speak for the client who's not here today, but yes, we will get that justified as well.
It didn't sound like an option. I just want to bring it up for record that
We'll get it.
you're acknowledging that we're requiring that at some time potentially in the future.
Absolutely.
Anything further?
No, I think we were all set.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Of course.
Stand by. We might have some other questions.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to open it up now to the public before we have commissioner comments. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to bring up any item on this particular applicant? Anybody online, Rose?
No one's online.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to close the public hearing, and it is 7:13. And now we'll bring it back up to the commission. Is there any questions, comments, anything to be discussed? Nothing either way. I had a couple things, I guess. The comment by Vidya kind of made me look at the plan a little bit regarding the barrier-free access in the rear, which makes sense. And then it caused me to look at something else, which I have a question on. It says flood vent at that particular area. Well, what does that mean, flood vent through the wall?
I think it's because when we were in the floodplain, we're just trying to mitigate any kind of any kind of moisture, just to kind of vent out any kind of type of cavities, just to regress from like mold or any kind of deterioration that might happen under there.
And that's based on anticipation of water getting into the building or water into the
Possibility,
wall?
just because we're in the floodplain part of it.
Yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter for site plan, but I saw it, so I was
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
The thing I did notice is, so if that's your barrier-free access on your plan A1-1 or .1, you show a door, that door, and then immediately in the door, you show a stair, which I think it goes up. So you can get in the building, but you can't go into the building. If you could clarify that, I would appreciate it. And maybe you could go back to A1.1 as a plan video.
I can, yes. Going to pull up the floor plan.
Yeah, it's basically the floor plan.
Yes.
Yeah, that goes into that one.
Oh, it's going too fast. Let me reduce it a little bit. Okay.
Yeah,
It would be the rear of the
Okay,
building. No?
Oh, the rear of the building, I will
And that's
scroll
what you
to
said
the,
was the barrier-free, right?
Correct, that's what we were looking at
Yes.
originally. You know, I think that was a miss on the drawings, because that one doesn't show it as
No,
well.
it
So
doesn't.
that's actually has been removed on the previous iteration.
Okay, well, it's on our plan, that's why it caught my
No,
attention.
no worries.
So, okay, so that is the record, not what we have. Is there anything that needs to
Okay.
be stated, video or administration, to clarify between the documents?
Yeah, I think to note it, I think we should make sure that we say a modified plan should be submitted to the city for final review from the planner.
Okay,
And let's get it right, not just make a note, so somewhere that there's no confusion for Randy when he looks at it through the building department.
yeah, okay, that sounds sufficient to me. I wouldn't have said anything other than, because Vidya said it's the barrier-free point of entry. Those were my questions and comments. So if there's nothing further from the commission, I'll look for a motion for action. And this would be for approval of the site plan recommendations, and I'd footnote the sidewalk item also.
I can make a motion.
Excellent.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan and facade change for 313 South Street, noting potential need for sidewalks in the future. And the correct site plan submission to the administration.
And the acknowledgement of the monument sign.
And the acknowledgement of the sign behind the wall.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Gasson,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Clauser,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Okay, we're going to move on now to the second of the public hearings for 120 South Main Street, special project and site plan, including a facade change. Is there someone in the audience for the applicant? Thank you. Okay, we're going to turn it over to you now, Vidya. If you can give us I'm going to open public hearing first, and then you can put that into the hearing at 7:17. If you could begin.
yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. The request on this project before you tonight is to operate a medical office use within an existing building in the downtown. The applicant is proposing to construct a 1,280 square foot addition to an existing 2,000 square foot building in the downtown to accommodate a new physical therapy medical office. The site is located right off the bridge on the east side of Main Street, south of First Street. It's a small site with a total area of 0.7 acres, and it is zoned CBD, or Central Business District. Now, the Central Business District, by the letter of the ordinance, does not permit medical offices, which are currently permitted only in the O1 office district. But through the zoning ordinance provision for special projects, the applicant can seek special projects approval from the Planning Commission, with final approval to be granted by the City Council upon demonstration of public benefit. Now, the site is identified in the current master plan as a special projects area site. So the applicant previously applied to the Planning Commission. They came before you at the last meeting, at which time the Planning Commission directed them to follow the special projects route. And they are before you tonight, just like every other project, for a public hearing. Now, as I mentioned, the use involves the construction of an addition to an existing vacant building. This building was previously used as an auto garage, and the auto garage use, once again, was a non-conforming use in the Central Business District. Automotive-based and garage-based uses are not permitted in the Central Business District. So once the use left and the site was left vacant for 1 year, the non-conformity protection for that use has gone. At this time, this physical therapy office is to accommodate 2 physical therapy professionals, medical professionals. There are no specific front yard setback requirements for the Central Business District, although typically buildings are closer to the street because the intent is to provide a pedestrian interaction with the building or the occupants of the building. In this case, the applicants propose the existing building is located 97.5 feet from Main Street right-of-way. The applicant's 20-foot wide addition brings it closer to Main Street, increasing its compliance towards the intent of the Central Business District. With regard to vehicular access, there is a single access drive off Main Street, which is 27.5 feet wide, which acts as a two-way movement, and the applicant is proposing striping the pavement for ingress and egress. As to traffic, the proposed use is not expected to generate traffic. I'm sorry. Can I continue? I wasn't sure if somebody had a question.
No, please continue. I didn't hear a question in the audience or in the room.
Oh, sorry, I heard something on Zoom, so I assumed there was a question. Sorry, I shall continue. So the use is not expected to generate traffic beyond what is typical for most uses or businesses in the central business district. And this use intends to operate Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., just like other medical office use buildings itself. The floor plan, when you see it, shows a lobby, it shows restrooms, a very small staff area, with most of the floor area devoted to the therapy itself. So we don't believe a separate traffic impact statement that we require for bigger projects is required or necessary for this project at this time. With regard to pedestrian access, the site has an existing 18-foot wide sidewalk area along its Main Street frontage. Now, this 18-foot wide area does have several planters that break it up in the middle, which have trees planted within them. The plan also notes 11-foot wide sidewalk on the west side of the building that then tapers to a 6-foot wide sidewalk to allow for parking, people who have parked to climb onto the sidewalk and reach the front entrance of the building safely. All of these parking spaces are provided with bumper blocks to prevent vehicle encroachment onto the sidewalk itself. I wanted the applicant to clarify, which they have done over here, there is no curb in this area. That is the reason for the bumper blocks. The sidewalk is essentially located at grade. So the bumper blocks are necessary in order to prevent vehicle encroachment onto the sidewalk area itself. With regard to off-street parking, based upon the use of the building, the parking requirement is 1 space for every 200 square feet of gross floor area. The site requires a total of 16 parking spaces. Now, the site plan shows a total of 20 parking spaces. Previously, there was 1 handicap accessible space. We recommended that the applicant include a second one. This is a physical therapy office, and it would be reasonable to provide for an additional accessible space for their patrons, and the applicant did revise their plans to show 2 van accessible, barrier-free accessible spaces over here. Due to the nature of the business and the size of the building, a dedicated loading space is not required for this site itself. With regard to architecture, I will go to page 43. With regard to architecture, the applicant's proposed improvements are to the existing building is constructed of block. So the applicant is proposing to paint that a dark gray, and the proposed addition that is in front technically conceals the existing block building in the back. Now, the building that is in front in direct view of Main Street is to be constructed of dark gray engineered wood siding and provided with black fiberglass shingle roof. Now, the west facade has got full-size garage doors. These are being used more and more frequently because they help businesses rather than open windows. The garage doors completely roll up, creating a very open indoor-outdoor space. And the applicant has used these garage doors with clear glazing in them. These are clear glass windows, which should actually show the activity taking place in the therapy area along the entire west facade itself. These proposed modifications are in keeping with the intent of the CBD. The use of the materials in terms of siding is unusual for the central business district, but the site is located on the south end of the CBD district itself, and the existing block building is dictating the design and the shape of the proposed addition on this building. It's essentially a giant rectangle. I would defer to the applicant to present this slightly more in detail for the Planning Commission itself. The applicant has clarified, previously there was a question about the awnings. There are going to be black canvas awnings above all of the other windows, and there is going to be a red colored awning above the main entrance door itself. With regard to landscaping, I will go back to the site plan while discussing landscaping. So The site has a significant slope towards the east and towards the south. For the most part, the applicant is leaving this entire area undisturbed, except for cleaning up some of the brush. They are not going to be removing any trees, or they are not going to be changing anything. The only landscaping shown is a row of 6 5-foot tall arborvitaes that are to be placed along the air conditioning unit that is placed here, and where they have actually shown where their recycling cans or units are going to be placed. When we reviewed this project preliminarily, I had noted that the site currently has parking spaces abutting the sidewalk on Main Street. The required width for a two-way movement aisle in our zoning ordinance is 24 feet. This existing aisle is 6 feet wider than what is required. Our recommendation was to provide a clear separation between the sidewalk on Main Street and between the parking spaces by including a 5-foot wide green belt in this area along the site's frontage. Now, the recommendation for a green belt is twofold. One is to provide a separation between the parking lot and any pedestrians who are walking here. Yes, the sidewalk is 18 foot wide, but Main Street along this stretch is a 5-foot wide lane, 5-foot wide roadway, and you do have several planters that are there in between. So somebody walking down is going to be between the inbuilt planters and the parking spaces itself. Inclusion of a 5-foot wide green belt to be planted with durable ornamental grasses will actually not only provide a separation, it will also help cut off the headlights from shining directly into Main Street. You have a whole row of vehicles and the business is open till 8 p.m. You're going to have all those lights shining straight onto Main Street. Inclusion of that green belt not only will enhance the site, improve its appearance as you enter into downtown, it'll provide for a separation between pedestrians and the people parked on the site, the patrons parked on the site, and it will also result in providing for a green area along the front itself. By including the 5-foot wide green belt, the applicant is still going to comply with the required aisle width. They are going to lose one parking space. The applicant's justification in not wanting to make this change was that they need this additional area to allow for maneuvering in and out of these spaces. But based upon our review of the plan, even inclusion of the 5-foot wide green belt and elimination of this one space would provide enough room for these vehicles to turn and exit the site. If the applicant is so concerned, the site is overparked. They need only 16 spaces. They have 20. Removing one space will drop them to 19. If they want more room, they can drop one more space and make it 18. They will still be 2 spaces above what is required for this site. But I do believe inclusion of the green belt is a very important consideration towards the site's design. Not as a special project, this would have been a recommendation even if this were just a site plan. I am requesting the Planning Commission to provide some feedback to the applicant in this regard. The previous time the applicant was before you with a rendering, they did show 2 planters in front of the main entrance to the building, and that looked really attractive because the concrete area expanse over here is so wide. But on this revised rendering and plan, the planters have been taken away. We would recommend that the planters be put back out there. The Planning Commission on several of the recent projects on Main Street have required these planters, not just on the Main Street entrance, also on the rear alleyway entrances, as long as it doesn't block pedestrians, to put in these planters with a perennial shrub in them, because that definitely breaks up and provides a relief to the facade. And in this case, the facade is a dark gray color. So adding some amount of green with planters will provide for visual relief. So that would be our recommendation. There is no tree removal proposed on the site. Lighting is decorative, and the applicant has noted that the lighting is going to be installed on the underside of the awning. So you're not really going to see the light fixtures on the outside, even though the light fixtures are downward directed and shielded, but they will provide necessary illumination to the front of the building itself. We did have a question regarding trash removal. Now, the applicant has shown one area for their recycling bins to be stored. I'm not sure how trash is going to be removed from the site, because if the applicant's intent is to have a trash truck come onto the site, we do need to see how a circulation plan can work because there isn't enough room on the site to maneuver a trash truck without using the barrier-free transition area, which is not recommended. So the applicant will have to have an alternate method of trash removal. We would like the applicant to clarify what that is going to be so it is on the record. All proposed signage needs to be submitted to the city administration prior to installation. At this time, the only signage shown is PT therapy on the awning itself, which is acceptable. And finally, as special projects, the applicant is required to demonstrate public benefit, which actually qualifies it as a special project. At the preliminary meeting, this was discussed a bit, and we had specifically recommended the applicant provide a written narrative because the ordinance requires the applicant to put it down in writing what the public benefit of the project is. At the time of review of my letter, I did not have a copy of any written statement regarding public benefit. So I would like the applicant to present that before the Planning Commission tonight to demonstrate the public benefit. Based upon our review of this project, this site is a challenging one. The Planning Commission over the years has seen multiple different proposals for the site, which simply did not work. They were either too much in mass, they were too much in height, or the deviations that were being sought from the ordinance standards were excessive. And in several cases, the proposal diminished the core downtown, so they could not proceed. At this time, we believe the project that the applicant is proposing is a good use for the site. It is a relatively low-key use for the site, and removal of the existing auto garage use and converting it to a use that actually welcomes patrons in and out goes towards the overall intent of the CBD to be a site that has people coming in and going out of it. So we believe the applicant has worked well with a site that is relatively challenging. So based upon our review of the proposal, subject to any feedback the Planning Commission can offer, and provided the applicant can provide adequate answers to the question regarding trash removal, incorporation of the green belt along the front of the site, and also demonstrating public benefit and addition of the planters, it would be our recommendation that the Planning Commission recommend special projects approval for the proposed use located at 120 South Main Street. This recommendation goes before the City Council, subject to the 5 conditions that are listed in the McKenna review letter dated August 24th of 2025. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Any immediate questions from the Planning Commission? Commissioner Clausen.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a question for Vidya or maybe even the city administration. So last time the applicant was here, they came for approval under the CBD zoning. Now they're back under special projects. And I'm just hoping you can clarify and explain why that's permitted or how that's different than just anyone being able to come back for a special project.
So I'd be happy to answer that question. So last time the applicant came before you, they came in with a request to allow for office uses under the umbrella of professional or service-based uses. That is an interpretation that has in the past sometimes been applied to medical office uses in the downtown. But in our review of the ordinance language, a medical office use does not qualify as a professional office as defined by the ordinance because the ordinance specifically provides for that distinction by providing for medical office uses in another zoning district in our city. So we did discuss this in detail with the city attorney, and the city attorney is aligned that the right way to proceed with this project would be to allow it as a special project. Now, not just any project can come in as a special project. They have to be within the area identified in the city's master plan as a site considered for special projects approval. And typically, these are areas that are in the core downtown, in and around the core downtown, because special projects allows for flexibility in applying zoning ordinance standards towards the end goal of achieving a site design and a site plan that contributes greater measure to the city than what you would get either only through direct zoning. In this case, the need for special projects approval is twofold. One is we do not believe in our interpretation that the medical office use is a use that is permitted under the written language of the CBD. And secondly, special projects would allow the Planning Commission to review the project and allow for some flexibility in items such as the design of the building, so on and so forth. So that's the reason for the applicant coming before you. The applicant was provided this direction, I believe, at the end of the preliminary hearing and told to come back as a special project rather than as a site plan, and the applicant has followed through on that.
Thank you for clarifying, Vidya.
Anything else before I ask the applicant to come forward? Okay, if the applicant could come up and address the 5 questions and add anything else that you think will add us some insight, I appreciate it. State your name and address.
Travis Riley, the trash, the plan is...
Travis, could you state your address too?
3234 Loon Lake Shores, Waterford.
Thank you.
The trash, I've spoken with the tenant about, they expect to generate 1 to 2 bags a week, so they're planning just to take it home. If it becomes anything greater than that, then the plan would be to enter into a business agreement with the owner of the Quick Pick next door to pay to put the trash in there. With regard to the green belt, it's not that we're opposed to it, it's the tenant drives a 22-foot long SUV. So using the Quick Pick as an example of the difficulty, the practical difficulty with getting in and out of the spots. If you're there around lunchtime, there's the service trucks that are the longer vehicles. They have difficulty getting in and out of the space. With that said, I've spoken with Jeremy a couple of times now, and we're not opposed to doing something. I just don't want to take 5 foot out of there because I think we're going to be creating bigger traffic or bigger flow problems and potentially more damage. So I think what I've talked to Jeremy about is that we can figure out how to get grasses in there by maybe moving it back a foot or two in certain spots, just to basically create little planting areas so that we still create the effect that I think that Vidya is looking for to go along with what's already on the sidewalk, which is, it does create quite a masking effect, I think, of any potential lights that may be coming up there, but we're happy to work through on that and, work with Jeremy and figuring out what the best solution for that is. And then I'm sorry, what were the other points?
Signage and also the public benefit.
So the signage, the tenant is aware that he needs to present that to Nick and Jeremy and to work through that. The public benefit is that we've spent several years with several different developers trying to figure out what to do on this site. And as Vidya said, it is a challenging site that is frankly derelict right now. So we're proposing to put in roughly about $500,000 into the site to bring it into a more community-centric use. Both of the tenants, or both partners of the tenant, are existing Rochester businesses. So they're creating more of the community sense, bringing the both of their businesses into one to supplement what they already have. And we want to clean up the site. We want to make it look new and be a good representation of entering town.
Okay, we'll see how that carries through in conversation up here. I appreciate it, but stand by. We're going to ask now the public to make any comments they have, and then we'll come back to the commission. So at this point, is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a question or comment regarding this? If you could step forward, and then you, sir, after, state your name and address.
Good evening, my name is Ruth Marie Shea, and I am affiliated with Downtown Rochester Properties, specifically 543 Main Street. So what I would just like to comment upon is the last presentation in which it was stated that, and I'm not up on all the nuances of this, but there are some special considerations for medical facilities that apparently have been taken into consideration by Vidya. I think that everybody needs to be aware that the practice of physical therapy is not the practice of medicine. Medicine is its own distinct profession regulated by the state of Michigan, as is physical therapy. So I would just question whether an ordinance provision applying to medicine is somehow equally applicable to physical therapy establishments, given the facts. Thank you.
Maria, before we step away, when you say the last presentation, could you be specific? Which one did you mean? The one we just heard regarding this project? Or
Absolutely.
the prior project?
No, this project.
Just now, okay, thank you.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I just wasn't sure the way you stated it. I got a little confused, so thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
Sir, did you have something you wanted to state?
Well, Briggs Pilley from 242 Mill Street. I live right down from the alley there. And I was just curious, I heard video say something about removal of some brush. But behind that building is significant overgrowth and trash and all kinds of stuff. So I'm just wondering if this includes cleanup of that. And would this site then be responsible for maintaining that?
Thank you for your question. And we'll get back to that in a second, and we'll ask anyone else if there are any questions in the audience before we go online. Rose, anyone online?
No one's online.
Okay, thank you. If you could address that, how do you, I assume when Vidya said brush,
Yes.
that meant everything within your property. But
So
if you could clarify that, that'd be great.
What the previous speaker was talking about is up and down that alley is just a trash collection point. So we've actually engaged the tree company to come in and clear all the brush immediately behind the building and around the building where most of the trash accumulates. We're also planning on trimming most of the trees to clean up the look of the site and then to also keep that clear of anything. Part of it, we used to clean this up every year and we started getting tagged more and more. So we stopped clearing it against the building because we kept having to repaint the building every year over the tags. So now that it's occupied, that's part of our lease agreement with the tenant is to keep that all cleared up. So the alley will be accessible, and, his view will improve substantially.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing now, unless there's anything last. Public hearing's closed at 7:42, bringing that back up to the commission. We've heard the presentation and response from the applicant and also a few things from the audience. How about we start with questions or comments or thoughts? Yes, Commissioner Causer.
I'll start. Real quick before I get into my comments, about the alley, is that
Yes.
your property or is that a collection of properties? It's ours, okay. Okay, thank you for clarifying. So I just want to start by saying I appreciate the investment in revitalizing the building. I think it's always encouraging when we see older properties getting a second life and continuing to add to the vibrancy of downtown. That said, a couple of comments. I agree with Vidya on the green belt and adding the planters back in. I think that just continues to go with other comments that we've made downtown and keeping it attractive. And I appreciate you working with Jeremy and the administration for, if the exact green belt isn't able to be put in, something else that still gets at that. The other thing I want to put out there is the proposed black, dark gray, and red palette is very modern. And I think we're seeing this pattern in many new projects that are coming, and even in existing businesses. I was driving downtown the other day, and you have, I think it's like the Janet Varner Plain and Fancy, just painted black and white, Boss Barber's black and white, Chomp's black and white. We're getting a lot of this, and so I just wanted to throw it out there that, this color scheme is starting to be dominant in downtown, and I think our zoning ordinance doesn't regulate color that I'm aware of. Part of what I think makes Rochester special, though, is that unique mix in style, and so I would just encourage us, I'm not opposed to this project, but I would encourage you and then applicants in the future to really think about the design choices and how they contribute to that vibrancy downtown and that historic charm that we're trying to maintain. But other than that, I think it's a good project, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I forgot to say that the planters at the front door are no problem either, but the architect, I think, just inadvertently deleted them, so that's not a big deal to add back in.
Thanks.
It wasn't intentional.
All set?
Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Bachmann and then, or Commissioner Kenzu?
You want me to go first? Yeah. I guess to dovetail from Commissioner Clauser's comments on sort of the modern look, I think the overhead doors contribute to that too. And I was sort of curious about, the function and design choice for that, and also in consideration of, I know very little about HIPAA, but I think physical therapy is subject to HIPAA. And I wonder if, as Vidya said, being able to see in, just the general public walking down that street, if that's a potential issue that they're seeing therapy in session.
So the tenant actually specifically requested that, those doors to be remaining, because the existing building did have doors at the time that they were there. They thought it was a cool aesthetic. I do know that they're planning on having any, like any table work, they'll have behind like a portable screen, so that if somebody's actually getting worked on, then they do have the ability to have the privacy. There was a specific design request from the tenant, so I can't speak to the HIPAA requirements of that, but I know that was something that they specifically asked us for, because I would much rather put in windows because they're a lot cheaper, but I do think it makes the building look interesting, and I think during the summertime, they just want to have, like Video was saying, it's easier to have good airflow through there, so I think it's just kind of a way to bring the outside in, and they're a little bit more progressive on their approach with the physical therapy stuff, so I think they're looking a little bit more holistically at that with having fresh air, is what my thought was based on our conversation.
Okay, so it sounds like the overhead doors are kind of a deal breaker for the tenant.
That's, they specifically requested that. That was one of their big sticking points.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose if I'm going to make a comment, my preference would be windows too, aesthetically.
I would love to have windows. It'd save me several $1,000s.
Yeah,
What's that?
I think so, thank you.
Commissioner Kinzig?
Yeah, first, just to confirm, the next step after this, assuming that, if the project passes, is to go before city council? Okay. I guess, I'm kind of in between on the green space. You have, along the right-of-way, along the sidewalk, you have 3 large trees that are already there, or at least large for that type of sidewalk. There's a park bench, there's a couple of streetlights. So there's quite a few things there, and I think, a simple row of ornamental grasses probably isn't gonna blend well. So I think a lot of thought needs to be given in terms of, if you go with a green space, what is it actually gonna contain, and, is it going to serve the purpose of shielding the lights? So that's one concern. The other thing is, by putting that green belt in, there's gonna be additional cost for the developer, or because you'll have to put sprinklers, wrap it around the parking lot. So there are some additional costs. I was against this the last time because of the fact, we were trying to put medical offices in the CBD. Now that this is a special project and there's more control over what's being done, I feel much more comfortable with it.
Thank you.
But those are basically my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Hard, did you have any comments or thoughts?
Well, I think at the last meeting, I was in strong favor of getting this project to this point. I think I failed to mention some of my concerns about the design and the facade. I'm really struggling with the siding material. Driving up and down Main Street, trying to look for examples that were recently approved of siding. The only one that I can see, that I could find that was recent and relevant to this really was, I think it was BP at the corner. They did some renovations, and it's a siding similar to what you're proposing, but they have a stone and masonry accent to it, so it doesn't look as stark as just all siding. And I went on the website for the material that you're proposing, and nowhere does it mention commercial uses. It's all residential uses, home visualizer and everything is about residential use, and it just doesn't feel appropriate to me on Main Street. I get this is kind of at the south end, it's a little bit set back from the street, so it's not as visible, but that to me is my biggest holdup. Like I mentioned before, I was a big supporter of getting you to this point, supporting a special projects, but I'm struggling with the siding on this project.
Part of the attraction to that was we look at Chomp. I mean, I go to lunch there all the time, and that's sided, so it just seemed to kind of carry that through.
Yeah, and I
That was
looked
the
at that
initial
too, and
thought.
as far as I could see, it's been like that since at least 2008, when I could see in the street view.
Yeah.
I think if that came to the planning commission again next month, I would have the same issue and comments that I do there. siding to me is not really an appropriate material for downtown Main Street, but that's my thoughts. I did have a couple other questions too. Is there going to be a concrete sidewalk between the parking lot up against the building the entire way? One of the renderings.
Yes.
That suggests there's a sidewalk. One of the renderings has a green area in front of it, so.
Yeah, the green area would be, by the arborvitae's there, so it would be,
Like that.
yeah, I'm not sure why that's there. That will all be, that will all be, sidewalk, because the building grade the building inside, floor level is the same as the exterior grade. So that's why we had to use the parking blocks, just because of the existing grade that we're already dealt with.
One thing to consider with that, I guess, is you're gonna have downspouts draining right onto the sidewalk in the front, and there's a lot of people here that are obviously coming for.
We're actually we're gonna pitch it, towards the, I guess it'd be the south end of the building. And if it becomes too big of a span, too big of a span to cover, then we'll actually have the downspouts come underground and shoot them in, before we do any of the flat work. Yeah, I don't want a lawsuit, so.
And then, did you consider putting the, AC condenser on the roof instead of?
We did. The concern is that roof access is somewhat difficult, just based on how the floor plan was gonna lay out. So we'd have to access it from the outside, and the hill starts pretty much where the flat building would be. So it's more of a ongoing safety for the HVAC contractor.
Okay, that was it.
Thank you. Great questions and comments.
I
Commissioner
just
Murphy?
have one question, just because Commissioner Harden brought it up, but the green space that isn't in front of the building and it's sidewalk directly up to it, is there anything besides the parking curb between that and the garage doors?
We could put planters at the pillars to soften that up, if that would be helpful.
Well, I guess I'm more concerned about, hitting the gas instead of the brakes.
Oh, yeah, other than the parking block, I don't know.
Okay. I don't know if
We'll be
anything
calling our
else
insurance
is
company at that point.
required, but it happens. Thank you.
Oh, I know.
I like the idea of the additional planters.
Happy to do it.
Never
Thank
too
you.
many plants.
Remember that in the motion.
Yeah, I will.
All good questions and thoughts. I had a couple to add to that. Just question on the site plan along the tree row as it goes downhill. There's some little circles. I'm not sure what those are. I made an assumption they're steel bollards that are there now, not something added
Yeah,
new.
they're existing bollards that protect people
Going
from getting the
downhill.
gas and
Gotcha.
making it.
I just wanted to clarify that. The other regarding the parking aisle width and the green on right-of-way, the sidewalk, I think you said it was 11 feet in front of the building. Why does that have to be so wide? Why can't you move the parking edge in towards the building versus?
I think that's 5 feet wide, if I don't have it in front of me, but I thought the city
No,
sidewalk.
no, this portion of the sidewalk is 6 feet wide. This is way wider than that. You need,
I think it's
with
11.
vehicle overhang, you need 7 feet. So you do have a lot more room in this area.
So my point there is if we wanted to, respect your wish on the width, move it in versus move it out as an option. Because I do think there's a valid reason to have the planting, not just to soften it up, but maybe that light screening so it's not necessarily just shining in the cars that are going to line up along Main Street. The bigger thing that I had was the special projects and the benefits stated. Yes, there's been a lot of development ideas that have come forward, maybe a little bit over the top and didn't quite get to the point where they were going to move forward. I would say this one's very understated, and I say that without any kind of, I'm not trying to be insulting at all, but there's, over the last 30 years that I could recall, there's been only several opportunities on Main Street for redevelopment. This is one we've been all anxious about. The corner of University and Main Street, both east and west, have developed in the last 30 years. I think I'll call it the Christmas building on the east side, Christman building on the east. I don't know if it's still called that. But that really took an appropriate position, in my opinion, based on the feel of downtown, to redevelop a building that was exploded. And then the couple along the bridge entering town. This, to me, is like a gateway into town. And if we're going to call it a special project, to me, it needs to be special. And I'm not saying special. It's special based on the use isn't conforming, but the building isn't special.
So,
And again, I'm not trying to be insulting, but this is an opportunity that the city and the developer is not going to have over and over again. Here's a shot to do something.
well, you got a couple of things here. The half or a quarter of the site, at least a third of the site maybe, is unusable as it sits. In our previous efforts to develop this, we tried to take advantage of the grade, and it became economics. I mean, if you want to have a gateway project, and that's where, you know, having it capped at two stories and still meeting parking requirements. We've looked into parking, and my understanding is that south of Second Street, we're just not going to get that approved. I mean, we've spent a ton of money on trying to figure this out, and we've had, I think, 3 other parties come before you guys, and it's just, there's been several different architects who looked at this, several different other type of professionals who looked at this, and, you know, we also agree that this is an opportunity to make a really great gateway, but based on the restrictions that are in place, based on, you know, everything that several different people have taken a whack at this, I don't think that would ever happen, quite frankly. I mean, we've been trying for north of 10 years, I think, and that's why we're here today, because I don't need to spend any more money to figure out that it's just not feasible. And, you know, as much as I would love to do something spectacular here too, but the economic, the cost of doing it, you know, the parking requirement, the height requirement, we just couldn't figure out how to make the Rubik's Cube work to make all those work. Then, you know, I understand that there's a traffic concern, so we've had several restaurants that we've talked to, you know, we've talked to Nick and Jeremy about it, and just that this is really where we kind of landed on what would be the best use for the site, because I don't have any other ideas at this point.
Well, I certainly appreciate and understand, because I've seen it, the evolution of how things have come and gone on that. And the economics is an important factor in what happens anywhere.
You have to have a lender write a check for it, so if it doesn't work, then.
So I'll add this other perspective. So we've seen things that are, oh, that's just too much. Parking, height, and a number of things. So the appetite wasn't there at those points. Now I see, and I'm not speaking for everyone, I see something far less significant. My opinion of the previous now would be, oh, I kind of like that more than this. And that's just, things change. And I don't think this is special or suitable for this site. And I'm not trying to be insulting. I expect more.
I don't disagree.
For the use of special projects. And that aside, your special project benefit statement, to me, is good, but it doesn't rise to the level of public benefit. Just, well, I'm going to take an out-of-use property and put it into use, essentially, is what you're saying.
Well, we're going to clean up the site. I mean, right now, we don't have another option at this point. I mean, we've exhausted, you know, every different avenue that I can figure out what to do. I mean, we've had, again, several different people look at this, and, you know, we are committed to making this work. But you know, it's a little bit frustrating to hear this would be a really great, you know, development site, and what we liked what you did before, because we would have loved to have had that built as well. So I don't know how to answer the question, I guess, or the concern.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's really a question, a concern, or really how hard I feel about it. I just know that this is an important site to the city, not for this in the next 7 years or your lease agreement. It's a 50-year look that I think the city, this will be used as a reference. Well, look what that we did down the street, and maybe it's to the point of siding. We have a number of sidings, wood siding, that metal siding across the street from you. That's more or less a sign backdrop. And that wasn't appropriate to me for Main Street either. But it's somewhat setting a precedent, without saying it's a precedent. It'll be referred to as, well, that's what was done down at the south end. So I have some real difficulty with being on board with this project, and it's just my opinion. And one more thing I'll add about the site. I'm wondering how we're going to deal with the double yellow line going southbound, going into that parking lot. What's the plan for that? Because right now that's an illegal turn.
I would imagine that most people are gonna circle down on Mill Street, pop up, and then basically go into Rochester Hills and come back to turn right into the
Okay.
building. If they're coming from the north, if they're coming from the south, then it's no problem.
Yeah, no problem. How would the city respond to something like that? Is there going to be a no left turn sign added to this project in some way?
I'm assuming MDOT's gonna weigh in on that.
Yeah.
So the way they play, if it's what's there now, they usually, unless you're modifying it, they'll leave it, but I would think you'd want to know left turn there.
Yeah, well, that might be difficult. It's a challenging site. It was mentioned a couple times by video. And likewise from you. I mean, you've tried a lot of things that seemed promising, but couldn't get to the finish line. So those were my thoughts. As far as the Greenbelt goes, I think when you say work with Jeremy on that, that's really a planning commission item. I have a lot of trust and faith in the administration and what they'll do, but the solution needs to come back to us, in my opinion. Correct me if you feel differently.
No, I think we should make a decision. Either it's give up a few feet, you can get grasses in 3 feet, so you might not need the full 5, but one person's 22-foot vehicle should not drive good design on the site, with all respect, Travis. So they can take up 2 parking spaces on their own property if they want, I suppose. But I think that greenbelt's very important to get in. I would like to see all 5 feet there. It's an opportunity to break up those grasses with the gold tops. That'd be beautiful there. They'll stay wispy in the winter, so it would break up things. So I think that's very important.
I would agree, but I don't think we
Mr.
need to
Chairman?
redesign it at the planning commission. But if an agreement can be reached on something that's clear and concise, without us being the design team, that would be okay. And yes, Vidya.
So I would like to offer some input on the Greenbelt. There is a reason why I recommended 5 feet, because 5 feet is the minimum width of a viable greenbelt. Plants don't survive in a 3-foot wide greenbelt because if you have vehicles parked next to it, typical vehicle encroachment is 2 feet. So now your plants are going to get hit and they're going to get crushed. So the minimum width of a greenbelt should be 5 feet to give the vegetation a chance to survive in it. And I made the recommendation of ornamental grasses. Like Nick said, there are specific species that will look absolutely beautiful in this area. And I go by my experience of reviewing over 20 gas stations and fast food restaurants in the last 1 year alone. And typically, I always review where their headlights shine into public rights of way are on main streets. We use huge ornamental grasses in narrow areas. These are also salt resistant. So if the sidewalk is salted or the parking lot salted, the salt goes on, the ornamental grasses will still survive. I concur with Nick. No disrespect intended, but having an extra long pickup truck is not a hardship. The zoning ordinance defines hardship completely differently under state law. It's good to have a large vehicle, but that's really not the Planning Commission's problem. So my recommendation would continue to stand that, as you recommended, Chairman Gasson, there is a really wide sidewalk on the west side of the building, the proposed new addition. It doesn't need to be that wide. So if they still want that enough maneuvering area room, you can still accommodate all of that with a 5-foot wide greenbelt on the site. The worst would be you would lose 1 parking space. So I would continue to reiterate that the greenbelts not go below 5 feet. And you could make that a condition subject to ornamental grass species recommendation, and we will provide that recommendation before the project goes to City Council. So if you're comfortable with us handling that part of it, you could add it to your recommendation.
Thank you, Vidya.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Kenzu?
Yeah, I guess in hearing all the discussion and whatnot, Vidya, there's a slide that you showed where you had the green belt where the actual sidewalk is. Can you go back to that, please? Yes, thank you.
Right here.
I guess my view of the building was always with that green space there in front of the roll-up doors. Maybe the compromise here is to, if you're taking that green space out in front of the doors, you have a sidewalk that's probably 10 or 12 feet wide. Why not just shift everything towards the building? You can still maintain the width of your parking lot. You have the green space. Everybody wins.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would also say, I would think, Travis, it would help you to say to city council, public benefit is, I'm taking a slab of cement off of Main Street behind a sidewalk and greening it up 5 feet with ornamental grasses. I think that's a very nice give as a special project.
Okay.
Good point. Were you finished?
I would also like to add, Chairman Gasson, that I know Travis didn't state all of it, but from a planning standpoint, I see the public benefit of these sites as being one, it is an extremely challenging site due to its grade and slope, which impacts the ability to provide any development reasonably on it. Second thing is this site is nowhere close to any of the parking decks or garage. It's got very limited parking. This is not a site where we want to have a restaurant or a similar uses that is parking intensive, because the parking on that site will then become a nuisance in our downtown. So they're providing for a use that actually adaptively reuses a non-conforming use site with a use that would meet all of its parking needs within the site itself. They are not asking for payment in lieu of, which has been a big challenge recently for the Planning Commission. The third thing, incorporation of the green belt would definitely add to the visual appeal of the site. And finally, I think the public benefit, while the site apparently is not environmentally contaminated, I'm sure the site, based upon its prior use, is not as good as what would be if you're trying to redevelop a greenfield site. It would be a site that has got a prior use on it that typically is found only on brownfield sites. So I would say there are some public benefits that are being served by this project, but I think Travis needs to put it down on paper and quantify it properly. I think it can be done.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing. I think, to be fair to Travis and the family, that they've been, the right way to do this, and we all know this, NVIDIA does too, would be to get the cleaners. They've been patient. The cleaners have been a huge impediment in this process. So finally, a couple developers came and said, we'll pay the $850,000 for that, and we still couldn't make it work. So they, in their defense, some of it was delayed because they were waiting to see if someone could put both these sites together. And when they did, they still had parking. They couldn't meet parking. We would not support pay in lieu, et cetera. So I think in this letter, you could also say, we are stuck now without being able to have that opportunity to redevelop with the site to the north because they've decided to go their own route. And I think that's legit. He's not making that up. He's tried for how many years to wait. So I get that. So.
I know you've tried too.
Yeah.
Well, all of those are very good points, and in writing would be the necessary thing. In addition to anything else, like you stated, would probably go a long way. Anything else from the commission?
Just one more question from me. I appreciated your points, Mr. Chairman, especially about the underwhelming nature of the design. And again, no offense, as the chairman said. I'm just wondering is there a way to dress up the building? I'm wondering if that would satisfy you a little bit. I'm sensitive to the economic argument, and that's been pretty clear from what you said through this process. So I certainly have empathy there, but is it possible to dress this building up within the economics of the project and get closer to what Chairman Gasson is trying to?
Well, I think what Chairman Clauser was going after, I think if we put more planters in front, like between the stanchions, it softens it up, it gives it a little bit more life, a little bit more color.
I guess I'm referring to the architectural elements.
You've got a roof drainage problem. I mean, the only other design we could do is a flat roof building and basically just make it look bigger than what it is, which I don't know that that's going to be the desired effect. I mean, it's an ugly building. I don't think anybody can argue that right now.
Don't say that at city council.
Right
Don't
now,
put that in
right
writing.
now, it's
Oh,
nothing.
right now.
Right now, it's
Right
nothing.
now it's not ugly. No, we're trying to clean it up and just make it look a little bit fresher. We did do a couple iterations with the architect, and this was probably the best one that we came up with. And mainly it's the water drainage is a problem, because the only other thing that we had originally talked about was doing like a shed roof on the front, but then it starts to look a little bit too much like a barn. So yeah, we did go through a fair amount of architectural iterations on this little addition, and this was the consensus within our group of what looked the best. It's actually not the cheapest to build, so I wish it was, but it's not.
Anything further? Yeah, Commissioner
I
Murphy.
would just say that I can understand the desire for a gateway building that announces someone's arrival into our beautiful downtown. However, over the years, and I haven't been on planning commission that long, but I've driven past all these years. And I don't think that, and I get the, this is a rare chance to redevelop and whatnot, but I don't think we should have, make trying to be perfect the enemy of having something that I think is really good, like a good use that it brings people downtown. I think it satisfies a lot of conditions for being in the CBD. And that is all.
Thank you. I appreciate all the counterpoints. What I was trying to say, everyone has an opinion, and I'll leave it at that. So anything further, or we're looking for a motion?
I guess if I can just make one last statement here. I'm looking at Google Maps right now, and as you come into Rochester, quite frankly, that building is shielded by the trees at the end of the bridge, so you really don't see it until you pass it.
Good point.
Mr. Chairman, given all the feedback that's here, is it reasonable to set another public hearing for this, or do you think we can fit all this into a motion?
Well, I think there's a motion that could bring this to city council. I think the biggest thing would be, how do we define, if we all agree in some way that a green belt's necessary, how do we define that or defer it to either administration with an assist from Vidya? I think if we could feel comfortable with that, I think there's a motion that could move ahead.
Well, if that's the case, I would like to suggest cutting down the sidewalk in front of the building, since it's going to be one big block of concrete, narrowing that by 5 or 6 feet, shift the whole parking lot towards the building, and that gives you the space for the green space, and you maintain the number of parking spots.
Go one more way. So I would say require the 5-foot green belt along the property line. Leave it up to him if he wants to move the whole parking lot or not.
Okay.
If we don't need to, don't. If he can work out that 5 feet, it's okay. Then we don't want him to have to. There's a jog in that parking lot a little bit. It might make it a little bit awkward. So I'm thinking, just agree to the 5 feet. Make that your recommendation to city council, and they can decide if they agree. That would be my suggestion. I don't want them to have to carve the whole parking lot backwards. So.
And that could, if we go that route, I think it could advance the project, and there's going to have to be some satisfaction between now and city council by administration with Vidya's input. If we're comfortable passing that responsibility and on, I think a motion, as Mr. Kinzu started out with, and then added by Nick saying a 5-foot green belt. What does that look like? We don't know, but we're going to see it before it goes to city council. That's just one of the points, so.
And we could also pass on the responsibility of Commissioner Harding's comments in terms of
Citing material
the
choice?
materials on the elevation.
For sure.
Okay,
Yeah, we get to make the motion we want.
okay, very good.
So I'm looking for one.
Not sure what all it includes, but I'll make a motion to approve the project with the addition of the 5-foot green space and the modification of the exterior materials.
Do you want to add, including the planters at the entry and along the facade?
We would do, yes, with include the planters.
Okay. And a written statement of public benefit.
And a written statement of public benefit.
Do we need to, Nick, include anything regarding the proposed trash removal if it fails, that there's a plan B?
Yeah, I think not, because he's in the DDA and they have the right to use the public dumpsters, so they wouldn't have to even take it home. They could take it to the city.
Well, and he already said he'll work out a business
Yeah,
arrangement.
and
so-
that's fine.
So we don't need to mention that. Okay, so we have a motion to add a 5-foot green belt, 2 planters at the entry, planters along the facade, let's see, am I forgetting something here? A written statement of public benefit. Did I cover it all, Mr. Kinzer?
And the exterior.
Exterior material. Thank you. Was that recorded well on your end? Okay. Thank you. Is there support? Is the motion understood?
Understood.
Okay.
No, I don't understand the exterior materials piece of it. Can we clarify what exactly we're sending to city council?
We want an alternative, something more suitable to Main Street, not siding. What that is, I guess, if it's.
Yeah, I would say
again,
that
we're-
planning commission was not comfortable with the facade and would suggest city council consider different. Travis, can I ask a question? Sure. So I'm looking Penn Station, across the street, everybody has brick. You don't have much area there to brick. If you just had brick up, not on the block part, right, just a little addition, and then the pillars still
that's
your
fine.
garage doors, it might be just as cheap, and it's brick, and I don't know how anybody could argue with that, because the whole Penn Station's brick. Across the street's all fake brick, but it's brick, so I don't know if anybody had brought that up to you. I didn't notice it until just now. so.
No, we hadn't talked about that,
Right.
but no, the siding was just because, we thought it felt
Understand.
adequate, but
Yeah.
I don't care.
So I think we
Being
could
perfectly
suggest
honest, I
that,
don't care.
which would be more traditional, like across the street with the Giorgio Center, that's all, it's panel brick, but it's brick. We did that on purpose to match the old school look. That way there'd be no argument at all, and I don't think it'd be more expensive, not that stuff, so, okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, is the motion to recommend the project to city council, or I'm not clear on what the motion is?
Yes, the motion is.
I know the conditions.
To move it forward to city council with our recommendations or conditions. Recommendations and conditions. That's clear to everyone, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I
Have a motion
can support.
and we have a support. Any questions on the motion? Okay, roll call.
Gasson.
No.
Bachman.
Yes.
Clauser.
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
Kenjuk.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Just to clarify, I like what you're doing, I just can't support it as a special project. If it weren't going that route, I would be a yes.
I'd like it not to go special project.
You can't go the other way, so there you go. Okay, thank you very much, and you'll be informed by administration when it goes to city council. Okay. Let's see, next we have a consideration for 543 North Main Street regarding proposed changes to site and vehicular circulation, and it's discussion review. So we have a packet of information. I'm going to turn it over to Vidya to outline her review, and then we'll ask the applicant to maybe address some of the questions that come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the request before you tonight, this is a project for discussion. This is for site improvements on the property 543 North Main Street. The site has got 4 existing buildings that you see over here, buildings number 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are arranged around a courtyard kind of area. The site is zoned B1 general business, and per the master plan, the entire site is designated as general business with the exception of the west, northwest, which are in the traditional core downtown central business district. Now, there was a fountain in the existing courtyard, which everybody was familiar with. The fountain was removed in early part of 2024, and based upon the photos and the images and the feedback received, this center area is now an expanse of pavement right now. I mean, in our review letter, I will go back to the review letter. So this is currently what the center area looks like. The center area is being repaved, and it's our understanding that the property owner is installing several gates, automated gates for entry into the parking lot. 2 of these are on University, 1 is on, 2 are on Pine, and 1 is on Main Street. So this is the master plan where you see with red is where the automated entry gates are located. The work on this project was started and then it was halted pending Planning Commission approval. Now, I have cited several sections of the zoning ordinance. Not going to read them out individually, but these sections basically clarify how and where the Planning Commission actually has an authority to review this project, which is site improvements at this time. So my review of this proposal does not include any use review, building architecture, landscaping, site design, none of that. This is simply a review of the parking and circulation, which are under the purview of the Planning Commission itself. Now, the site plan that is on your screen and that is part of your packet is something that was drawn in 1990, I believe, or earlier. It's got all these additions, but it's not signed or sealed. And a document that goes for site plan approval before Planning Commission is required to be signed and sealed by a licensed professional, current licensed professional. The property lines really need to be clearly delineated. I mean, there is a dashed line, but the property line needs to be highlighted and the dimensions noted. So the outline of the property is clearly shown. Now, this plan that you see before you is actually showing the fountain area and the courtyard, but the picture in my letter shows you that this no longer exists in this configuration. So the site plan needs to reflect what exactly is the configuration of this area going to be. If it's going to be striped again for parking, how's the parking going to be laid out? What is going to happen to this area? There is no clarity on it. There are 5 new gates proposed. Now, as I mentioned, there are 2 of West University. Not so long ago, the Planning Commission had reviewed and granted site plan approval for this office building. At the time, you had reviewed that the circulation plan for this building is one-way in, enter only, and one-way out, exit only. A typical width of a one-way access drive is 15 feet. That accommodates one-way movement of vehicles. Now, the width of this aisle is not noted, so I don't know exactly what the dimension is. Now, the automated entry gate island that is being put in, it's 14 feet long and 2 feet wide. So how much remains of this drive aisle if the 2 feet is taken away? What is the remaining width of it? Because it still needs to have minimum 15 feet on it. It cannot get any less than 15 feet to allow for the two-way movement of vehicles. Now, if you look at the 2 islands on Pine Street, per the applicant, this is where their property line ends. The 2 automated gates that are shown, they're both located on city-owned property. This is the city's right-of-way, Pine Street right-of-way, and this is the city's property. So the electronic gated kiosks cannot be located off the applicant's property. They cannot be within public right-of-way. And here there is an existing sidewalk along Pine Street. The photograph I've included in your review letter will show you that this sidewalk goes this way and it curves going this way towards the park. These kiosks basically are shown located on the area that actually has a public sidewalk on it. So I'm not sure if the representation here is incorrect or what is actually going on, but there is a sidewalk connection in this area and these islands conflict with it. Now, the proposed gates for entry into the site, the way the gates are located, if you look at Main Street also, it allows for stacking of barely 1 vehicle. Even the 1 vehicle that is standing over here will project into the public sidewalk that is along Main Street itself. Similarly, if you have vehicles that are entering the site of University, if you have 1 vehicle over here, the second vehicle, if it's trying to enter the site, will actually project onto the public sidewalk of University Drive. They will actually be stacking up onto a public sidewalk area itself. In case of Main Street is under MDOT jurisdiction. So anything that impacts the traffic, holding patterns, or turn movements on MDOT-owned property needs to be reviewed and approved by MDOT. Even in the previous project, Nick had mentioned that MDOT will have a say if you're going to make any changes to any existing patterns of circulation. In this case, this island is going to change that. So we just want to make sure the applicant has run this by MDOT and gotten MDOT approval for it. Now, whenever a project of this scope typically comes before the Planning Commission does require a traffic impact study. And in this case, it is important to see what happens in rush hour, morning rush hour, when people are going to work or people are coming back from work and you have multiple vehicles. This is an office complex building. What happens when multiple people are trying to come into the office at the same time? And these days, back to office, remote work is reducing. There are lots of people who have to go back into office on a daily basis. What happens when you have multiple people trying to enter the site at the same time for office? You're going to have a backup onto Main Street or on University too. What happens on Pine Street? All of these answers are something a traffic engineer can give you. We are not traffic engineers, so that is not something I can anticipate and have an answer on. It requires a professional to evaluate what happens. Also wanted clarification with the gated entry, how does access for trash trucks, fire trucks, emergency trucks, and paramedics work? I mean, what happens? Do they have, I know typically when there are regular gates, you have Knox box and stuff like that. What happens in the case of a gated key card? How does the fire truck get through? And with this being a two-way access drive, you now have an island in the middle of it. Are both of these enough to allow an ambulance to get through and out? That is something that the applicant will have to demonstrate. So the plan, the changes the applicant are proposing can be permitted if there is a proper site plan and the Planning Commission knows what is going to be done. So the information we need in order to review the project or make a recommendation on it would be to know what is going to happen in this area. How is the parking going to be striped? How is it going to interact with the pedestrian walkway areas? Are those going to be expanded? Is this all going to be just asphalt and concrete? We need to know how our emergency vehicle is going to access it. We need a traffic impact study to know how does traffic stacking up on the abutting main thoroughfares impact traffic on those roadways. What happens to these one-way entries in and out? And the fact that if these kiosks are in fact located on city-owned property, they cannot be there unless City Council grants permission for it. So the project is before you tonight for feedback to be provided and for the applicant to make their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya. In your presentation, you referred to the university ingress egress as two-way. Was that a misspoke, or is it's one way in or out on each of them, not two-way, right? And 15 feet?
Correct.
Okay.
I apologize if I sounded incorrect. It is one way in only and one way out only.
Okay, and the 15 feet is clear width? It doesn't reduce when you have a gate arm? Because I've seen them where they seem rather tight. But I just wanted to clarify, it's one way, 15 feet, and is it clear? Does it need to be clear?
Yes, our ordinance, in the zoning ordinance, it just says for one-way movement of traffic, the aisle width needs to be 15 feet. It doesn't talk about any obstructions being there in that 15 feet width.
Okay.
So the ordinance language as written says 15 feet of drive area.
Okay, and maybe that's something that's clarified with a traffic study or parking consultant to say what they have now, less than 15 feet is maybe adequate or not? You can look to get that from someone else besides us. We're not going to determine that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Well, that was quite a bit. Any initial comments back to the planner or questions that for things you didn't hear that you wanted to hear, or vice versa?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions. I'll lay them both out. I think they're both probably best answered by the city, but we had a recent precedent with Cottage Inn Pizza where they made some changes without going through Planning Commission first. And what Planning Commission did was require Cottage Inn to return the site back to its original condition before we considered the plans.
It wasn't before you considered it, that was the resultant. They had the right to come ask, you denied them, and then we made them take them down before they got CLO. So.
Okay. I think that's what I was trying to say, but thank you for clarifying. That said, I think the city had some strong comments in the Cottage and Pizza case. I'm curious, given that some of this equipment and infrastructure is on city property, I'd like to know the city's opinion about that. And the other point is in the materials that we have, it says the applicant is also in the process of addressing numerous blight-related issues in the building. And so I'd hope to hear and understand just a brief summary history of that issue.
Yes.
So, it's been a long journey with the property. Dr. Tala, who owns the property, has been working with the fire chief on a improvement plan. They were meeting weekly. Not fast enough for some folks, I understand. Obviously, you are aware of all the pressure we're getting from the public, from electeds, et cetera, on this property to speed it up. The goal of Chief Cieslik has always been to get compliance and work our way through. We ran into a winter situation where some of the things was cement, redoing the parking deck, the brick planters, et cetera, things that couldn't get done in the winter. So that delayed it worse, so everybody had to look at it longer. In the spring, they started to work together to try to come to a resolution. Again, not fast enough for some folks, understand. That, I can speak from being here for 16 years, that numerous times, that was one of the very first underground parking structures, I think it might have been, that was built. Dr. Tala has had the pleasure of maintaining that for all these years, where no matter what he does, it has to get ripped up from underneath, a new membrane put on, and just keep doing it, keep doing it. There's no good fix. At one point, he was gonna abandon the whole plaza where video was talking about and just make it into a green space. That ran into a parking problem. So it's put him in a bit of a conundrum, I would say, to how he lays this out. When we went to the apartments and the medical facility, we tried to figure out parking the best way we could do that. So I can't make any excuses for the lack of maintenance on the property. That's been an ongoing problem for a long time. That gets people more irritated, but he's been working with code enforcement to try to rectify that. We had to put a stop work order out on, when we first saw conduits going in the parking lot, we didn't know if that was irrigation sleeves for the islands, honestly didn't know. When all of a sudden there's islands put in, it was like, okay, you need to stop, you need to go to the planning commission. Did not know where the property line was. Everybody assumed it was a foot behind the sidewalk, which now those, as Vidya pointed out, those are on our property. We wouldn't make him rip them out. Now that would be his right to ask the planning commission and city council. We have people that have encroached landscape areas, the corner bar, into the city's right of way with an agreement that the city attorney draws up for the use of that property if city council felt that was okay. So he would have the right to ask to keep those there. That's why we didn't make them rip them out right out of the gate. So that's pretty much it. It's up to the planning commission. Everything Vidya says is 100% right. I know it's frustrating for Dr. Tala and the group, but we also, he has the right to monetize this lot, if that's what he wants to do, but under the guise of following what the planning commission needs to do. If you moved all the kiosks in deep enough to get 2 stacking spaces in, or a full stacking space in behind the sidewalk, you probably could do that. Now, you don't address morning rush hour in an office building, how many people are gonna come in on Main Street? Do you leave the gate up in the morning? I don't know. So he can talk to how he had this plan to work with existing tenants. I don't know. That's we don't make that call. It's still parking. I know he was trying not to lose parking spaces because under the approved plans, he needed X amount of spaces. So it's a complicated site. But as far as circulation and stuff, that's what traffic engineers do. Absolutely agree. I don't know if that helps a lot.
Thank you. Did you get your questions answered?
I think so. Do we have significant blight yet to address through this plan?
I would call it significant. There's a broken window that was still there. The planters have to be fixed. I think some of them are coming down. We amended the stop work order to allow him to finish surfacing the parking structure top. So that's not done yet, but he can talk about that time frame. Pulling weeds and mulching, things like that, that can be done quickly. It's been a struggle to get that done, but we'll just keep on it until we get everything right, how the city ordinances allow for us to enforce.
Thank you, Nick. Anything further, Mr. Bachman?
No, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners?
I have a question about how much parking and where is it needed?
Yeah, Vidya, I think she could answer that, but it would be on the approved site plan, how much is required. We had a plan that was approved, so nothing's changed that right now. He hasn't taken out any parking. In fact, I'm not sure what's gonna happen in the fountain area, but if that's more parking, that would probably help.
Okay,
numbers, but I know
I
he was
just,
at required parking, he wasn't deficient.
Okay.
Because he has so many underground and above ground, so when the city council, or on Plank Commission, I'm sorry, approved the apartments, he was at required parking, I don't know if there's excess or not. We'd have to figure that out, but that should be, if he needs to reduce any parking spaces, then video would ask him to have a new updated parking chart. At this point, it doesn't take out any spaces, so.
well, I
he'd be
guess
on that
I'm,
list.
think it seems like a sea of parking
Yeah,
for, and I understand
Yeah,
the
I don't.
existing office building is now an apartment.
part of it is,
Is
yeah.
that part of it? Okay. But for what is actually in the four buildings?
Yeah.
It seems, I mean, with the underground, of course, it seems like a lot of parking that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we, obviously, we need an answer. It's simple. It's on the approved site plan. Medical office requires a lot of parking, probably way too much, quite frankly, especially a practice like Dr. Atala's where it's not just a massive amount of people coming in there, it's more appointments. So video, we can pull that up from a previously approved plan. It will tell you exactly how many spaces. And to your point, I think if there was an opportunity to give up some spaces, that would be great. So, do you have it on, is it on? Okay, probably not, so. But we can get, well, I have that answer.
Okay, yeah, I guess there's
understand.
a lot of questions until we have a,
Right, approved site plan,
Yeah.
Okay, we'll ask, unless there's further discussion, I'm going to ask the applicant to come up and address some of the concerns that Vidya made and maybe enlighten us on your vision of what you're trying to do here with the parking gates, parking in general, the circular area particularly. So we're anxious to hear.
Thank you, and good evening to all of you. I am sorry that.
Dr. Atala, I think we all know who you are, but for the record, could you state your name and address? No worries.
543 North Main, 134 University, and 530, all combined into Rochester. Okay. Can I, when Vidya reviewed that plan, that was done by the cement contractor that we had. I'm gonna give you the whole story. You're gonna see the changes, because this is not what's happening, okay? So, I have already the architectural plans, I got them, and if you would like to have them to see what we are, but I'm gonna do a presentation. But before I go there, I need to tell you that Vidya and, I mean, at the city council, referred us to different articles where we need to come here. The three attorneys we have said you don't need to do, and these are the articles. The work doesn't create a new building, doesn't alter the lot's principal use, and maintains existing ingress and egress. The references are there, and you are welcome to check them, but this is why we went with a simple plan and came into the city. So we had legal attention from top attorneys telling us you do not need to go.
I'm no attorney, Dr. Atala, but if I can interject, maintain existing ingress and egress, I think you're altering it.
Okay.
That would be my first response to that, but I'm sorry to interrupt. Please carry on.
We are here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Nick insisted you need to see it. I said, fine, I mean, you need to know, and we're happy to let you know. But we're gonna let you know the facts, and the facts are in those things. But I'm gonna.
May I interrupt once again? You're pointing to that. Is that
Yeah.
something we should have?
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
something?
it is gonna be part of the story that it is. When I was trying to do the parking, and we're gonna talk why we want to do the parking. I texted Nick and I said that was in November of 2024. And I asked him that, what do we do with the parking? How do we get to approach it? And he responded, as you can see again, I don't know if you can read it, that you have to talk to Jeremy, and by the way, you have so many violations that you're not going to be able to go to the planning commission. Nick and I have been working for years together. I mean, so I said, okay, well, how do I find out? He tells me, please talk to Chief John. I went to Chief John, and Chief John's come in. What violation? I don't have anything written. Nobody told me I'm violating anything. I mean, this is not the case. Well, he came in. We had a paver, excuse me, a planter, one on the east side of 543 and one on the west. Well, somebody hit the one on the west, and all the stuff crumbled, the masonry, the stuff. It was a blight, you know, but who is going to fix it? So we started looking for people, and he helped me. He saw the subcontractors with me and so on, and quite a few of them said, this is a big project for us. We're not going to take any chance with it. So I told them, let us do exposed aggregate cement. So all the pavers will be removed from 543, and we will do that cement. There will be no leaks down to the garage, and it will be clean and nice. So that's the story here. But the chief kept, pressuring me, like Nick said. We need it now. But, you can't do these things fast. You need capable people, and you need to do them right. And that's why it took us some time. And in addition, as we started the construction in June of this year, by the way, I'm skipping to save time, but we did a part of it last summer, but we couldn't go all the way. Okay? So we did it right in front of Silver Spoon and stopped at that point. This year we went all the way, and we removed the fountain, as you heard from Nick. Nobody in all this time of construction told us, you need a permit. Nobody. Nobody told us anything about, they saw the islands being built and all the stuff is done. Nobody said, oh, what are you doing? You need a permit. None of that happened. So I am going to go to the next, we're going backward. On August the 6th, I went in the morning and saw Jeremy and Nick. And Nick told me, I'll help you so we can get to meet the site planners and get it going. I said, perfect. I appreciate that. Let's do it. So then I went down to Birmingham for 3 hours. On my way back, I returned to the office, and I see Officer Taylor from the police department saying, Dr. Atala, you stop everything. If you don't, you're going to get a ticket and a misdemeanor. I said, wow. What happened between 8:45 a.m. and 3:45 p.m.? I don't know, they're not. But you can see, it says here, stop because of violations. We didn't know, we didn't see any violation that we did. The city passes all the time through our lots. Why nobody said anything? So, we did that work to remove blight, because that was really blight. Weed and so on, I'll show you some pictures today and you can tell me. We have staff that keep every day going, weeding, and doing the stuff, okay? I mean, really, every day, definitely. But we are attacked for no reason here. It was raining, there was more. I will show you pictures, and I'll show you who will have the weed. You're gonna see nice slides in here. So, I went to the city council. Again, Nick invited me to meet, and part of the opinions at the beginning of the council meeting. And so that was August 11th. And I told them, we cannot stop the work. We have staff, and they need to do repairs. So it was changed, and we have an amended stop work order. So they allowed us, you can do striping, you can do your weeding, you can do all this good stuff. But that's not enough for us. Actually, on that night where city council met and I was there, that was the day we're receiving a team from Texas to install all the mechanics, the kiosks, everything that you need for these gates. And we have a contract with them. Penalties, can't get the equipment, da-da-da-da. So, I mean, we were paralyzed. We truly were. And we're still paying for that. Let me just start showing you what we did. So what you see is here, if you look at that building 1, you can see there is no planter. We removed it. On the left was that planter that was pretty much a blight. And now it looks clean, it looks proper, it looks good. I'm going to show you that we started also doing on our own waterproofing with sealer. Look at the beginning of the picture here. You can see how the cement was. We changed membranes so many times. We had people cleaning all that stuff. Potholes kept going. So we needed to do something, and that's what we did. It's waterproofing and sealing at the same time. We did it, and we didn't depend on any contractors. Now, this is the plan you should look at. Let me see if I can move it up or down a little bit. All right. So you can see in the lower part of the slide, 543. And I don't know if you can read everything in there. In the previous plan that Vidya showed, there was no measurements, there was no distances. There was a lot of errors. It is not the case. you can see right now that we have 10 more parking spaces in the areas that I showed you in the previous slide.
Dr. Talley, can I interrupt you for a moment? So this is something new to us, right? You're saying this is the new and improved version of what you want to do.
Absolutely.
So what we're doing tonight, I think the background and history of your process is important, but I really want to get to the point. For us, what we're wanting to see is what do you plan to do, and offer you some feedback so then you can prepare the proper documents to ask for approval. Because what you're going to need is an approval, a site plan approval to do parking changes, parking improvements, the gates. I think there's been some question or even suggestion that the city is waiting to hear from us about our opinion of the gates being on city property or not. But really what we want to hear from you precisely is what you're going to do, and maybe offer background where you think it's absolutely necessary. Because we really want to focus on what you're going to do.
This is the plan, and that's what
Thank you.
we've done, Chairman. I mean, this is the plan. You see that from Main Street, we're having, by law, I mean, that's all the specs of that company that handled our parking. Their name is Parking Box. It does airports, hospitals, major things. Their specs are very rigid, and you have to follow them.
So
And
you
that's
would
what we
think,
did.
you would think they would get it right. That's my assumption on your part.
Absolutely.
Is there an MDOT permit approval to do that on Main Street?
No, there is no need, and I'll show
No
you
need.
why when
Okay.
we get there. Okay. Because what you see, the island is 20 feet from the right-of-way. Okay? So it can take up to 2 cars, and we never seen 2 cars coming from there, actually. All right? So I'm gonna, again, I go show you with the slides. These are the slides. You can see the that they were done by the architect, and he signed it. Okay? So we have a lot more parking here. And by the way, here we have also about 16 to 17 parkings where the barber shop used to be in the past.
I can't read those, so if you could help me, where there's a circle where your circular drive used to be, or an oval, what is that?
It was a bigger circle. This is just the architectural statue that we moved. There is no fountains, there is nothing at that time.
So parking is expanded by those 10 grade spaces?
Correct.
And it just stops hard, and there's pavement up to the buildings?
No, it doesn't go to the building, because
Well, at
all
that hard line, it's parking stops and driveway aisles stop?
Let me use my, okay. Let me use the pointer to see if we can get it, yes.
Oh, there you go.
So this is here, and all here, the walking area. Those walkways are each 16 feet wide. So she asked also in her report, you gotta tell us the walkways. Well, here it is, it's 16. We didn't change them, actually, they were always that way. And the new parking spaces are right there. Now, people come from Maine, they, of course, they are on the right. We stop them and we have a sign, no trucks, because a truck cannot go with that space there. The trucks will come from 2 areas, the area next on the east of University, and that, again, all the islands are about 14 feet in length, 2 feet in width, and like she said, you need 15 feet in width here, where we have 21 to 24. So, I mean, that's where the trucks will come, deliver everything for the restaurants.
So we'll need to see those dimensionings on a plan so she could say it satisfies the ordinance.
It is there, they are all small, you can see them.
Well, we
Well, we
don't
don't
have
have
that. We
it.
don't have that.
Oh, it is right there. I brought them to you, and I brought also the memory stick here. Okay. So it's all in there.
We don't review plans at the meeting, so, yeah.
So these are the submitted plans for next month's meeting that he brought me tonight, and that's why I didn't include them in the
Gotcha.
packet.
I didn't mean to question you on that
No,
earlier,
you're fine.
but I figured the answer was no since you didn't hand them out.
Correct.
I want to point something out just to get clarification,
Sure.
because I'm not really sure what you're telling me. This is a big fountain here, or was. This is new parking that stops, and this is all plaza pedestrian walkway?
It's all,
There's no parking in here?
no,
No vehicle circulation? Stops right there?
it's,
That's correct.
it's
Okay.
all cement, aggregate cement.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the cars can go, and of course, they can go also down to the garage where we have 120 parking spaces approximately.
So Dr. Tal, that grade area with 10 new parking spaces, that is replacement for parking that was lost when you,
No.
that's
we
add,
just
it's added?
It's
Okay.
just on top of
Okay.
everything. Yeah, and you can see that where we go through the ramp and go to the garage. Now, the traffic, she asked for the traffic, and here is what the traffic, it is also in red. And I am gonna take you to that. You see it right there. Okay? And you can see that we're turning here if you, the traffic, why is that not stable here? The red line shows you the exit on the west alley, west of 134. So any trucks, ambulances, anything have the right to do all that, and they will be given validation. We talked with Chief John, we talked about with the police. I mean, they all are aware that they will have access anytime they would need that. This is no different than what the platforms are doing. When people come in, they take a ticket. When they go, they put the card and they pay. There's nothing that is gonna slow the traffic, nothing that's gonna do any issues.
Are there going to be, to maybe Nick's point earlier, are there going to be any peak times where the gates are just open for free flow in, so you're not stacking up on wall,
We
on,
honestly, we don't get that traffic. The traffic comes when we have, and I will get to it, the city
Events.
issues, with the park, okay?
Okay.
So, and there are tons of those, and we'll go through the list of them a lot too. So, now, Giffords Webster did the plan for 543 Main. And we asked them to look at the topography of our building here. And you can see actually what they say is not for us. This is an easement. It is part of the property at Pine. The lines that the aerial lines that Nick showed me are not correct. And this is why we have that part to us. So this is not done by anybody that doesn't know their business. And actually, Giffel Webster's in 1990, when we built the building, did also that topography, which is very complex. It's a great entity and they do a good job, and they wouldn't run us. So, I mean, mislead us, I should say.
Back to I think what you're pointing out is on Pine Street, your boundary looks different than the boundary shown earlier by Vidya.
Correct.
We'll need to see that on a sealed survey, so we're all on the same page.
This is sealed. Everything I showed you is sealed by the architect.
Okay, well, we'll just need to have that.
Right, okay. You are gonna have that for sure,
Excellent.
okay? Now, also, Vidya said we are going over the right-of-way. Well, no. Like I said, on Main Street, the distance between the right-of-way and the island is 20 feet. At University, east and west, it's 55 feet. So there is plenty room for 3 cars if they want to come there, or 4. So it is not on the right-of-way like the platform that the city has. The city has it right, this is the right-of-way, and here are their aisles, or islands. And I could show you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Vidya.
Apologies for interrupting Dr. Atalla. I just want to clarify that Dr. Atalla is presenting a plan and referencing distances and setbacks, which is not the set that was submitted for my review. So I have no plan that shows a 20-foot setback or a 55-foot setback. I just want the record to reflect that, because Dr. Atalla keeps saying, I'm not sure, she's saying that there is no stacking, but there is 20 feet. The plan that I reviewed does not have 20 feet, does not have 55 feet. So I want to be sure that the plans being presented tonight to the Planning Commission is not the plan I reviewed, nor the plan that is in your packet. So just want the record to reflect that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for reinforcing that. I think we've covered that, and that there are plans we don't have, you don't have either, but they're going to be forthcoming for a future meeting. That basically showing that information tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's for your info video.
And this is the other entrance for the other things. They're all at the line. We are way inside our property, except at Pine. We are right at the right-of-way, just like that. So I toured all the platforms, and they're all just next to the right-of-way. And now this is a private building. This is the First Street Lofts. And they don't even have a walkway or right-of-way. And look where they are, next to the rail. So, I mean, it has been already approved. And they're working with it, you know. So the city has a right to do that. We don't have the right to do it in one spot. Okay, so I mean, it's not correct. See, look at the exit and the street. It's like there is no car that can, look at that.
Yeah, I kind of recall this, and I could be corrected. This was a condition talked about, and those doors are going to be open at peak time. They weren't going to be closed to account for that. Is it perfect? I don't think so, but just so it's not left standing as that's the situation. They are opened at peak exit and arrival time. That's what I recall the approval
But they
being.
have remote, I suppose.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's a good example to show what's going on around town.
sure. Now, this is actually the island from left Main. And you can see there is a slope in here, so you don't see those 20 feet behind it. But you can see where the problem happens here. It's not stacking in our property. The stacking is because we have 10 seconds after us, 100 feet or less, a light. So the light is there. And that's actually, I have it in movie, but I couldn't put movies in the PowerPoint. You can see the traffic is, we're not stopping the traffic. It's the lights that are stopping the traffic. And actually, when you come to the gas station and the bank, we have also a right of way, where people can go to university or they can go to Pine. They can do, there's 3 entrances and 3 exits. So nobody is gonna be stuck there. I'm gonna show you every one of those. This is the one on the east. And between the island, like I said, in this case here, actually it's 24 feet of width. This is on the west side. And you can see where the street starts. There's 55 feet minimum here. And again, 24, you can see the old library here, and you can see the distance. You got tons of space for people to go. This is the only one island that we say is reaching the right of, even, I mean, the right of way. I mean, this is an easement. And this is the one we go out. We were gonna put it behind. However, we have Cisco trucks, we have big trucks. They cannot swing around if we approach that inside. And they are telling us, as we were doing the job, you need to put it right there. And this is an easement land. And by the way, we take care of all that, all the planting, all the mowing and everything. So this is for the island and this is for the parking. I'm gonna go to the issue of the blight. I already showed you the pictures that the planters were removed and we put aggregate cement there. So it's done. We are complimented all the time about our landscaping. I'm gonna show you some pictures in here. This is not, you know, this is reality. This is this year. This is on Main Street. This is at the entrance of University on the east side. The one on the west side. I mean, you see blight here? If you do, please let me know. I mean, we have beautiful, look at the flowers, hibiscus, Rose of Sharon. I mean, it's all beautiful. All the tenants love it. And why we keep talking about the blight? I'm going to show you the blight from the city. Look at that. This
Dr.
is next
Attala,
to the heart center.
I want to listen to everything you have to say, but I want to move this along. And what we were focused on is what you plan to do with the parking and what you plan to do with the traffic flow. The blight's not so much our concern. That is an issue that you deal with the city. So if we could just skip over that,
Okay.
I think it'll serve us all a little better.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Can we talk about the weed there?
No, no,
Okay.
we need to move on past that.
Okay, very good. And this is our neighbor. And this is what happens to our parking lot. This is the cameras from Pine. Every time there is an event, we, the tenants, cannot go in there and use our parking. They are pretty upset because it is open and people just take their places. And that's pretty much.
And this is the essence of your project, right? You want to control who parks on your property.
Absolutely. Actually,
Okay.
my son will be here to talk about that more than me. And after I finish, I'm just about done. Look at the cars. I mean, these happen only when there are festivities and so on. Actually, the study was done when I was at the DDA as chairman of the Site Development Committee for 8 years. And we asked McKenna to do a traffic study on Rochester. And that's why we had the 2 platforms. All right? So the traffic in that area is not significant at all when it is for our tenants only. And this is from the chief of police. He told me, yeah, expect that all this time you're going to have people there and you got to handle it. There was a
Dr. Tala, I don't want to keep interrupting you, but I really need you to move on specifically to what we need to hear.
I am correcting, I just had to tell you, this is, they were so angry that I had a gooseneck there. We removed it. They were so
Okay.
angry that the fixture doesn't work. It needed just, it's plastic, we just had to caulk it.
Well, all
We had
those,
the
all those
graffiti.
blight items,
Yeah.
please deal with the city on that.
Okay.
And we want to handle your site plan issue. So we're looking forward to getting a site plan submitted from you. It sounds like you already did it.
It is there.
So we're going to review that at the next meeting. And if all the things you've pointed out to us tonight are on the plan, we're probably going to have sufficient information to take action.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you. Appreciate
that.
it.
Okay, Pierre, do you want to talk? Sure.
Members of Planning Commission, good evening.
Good evening. Could you state your name? and address,
Absolutely.
please?
My name is Dr. Pierre Charbellatala. I represent 543 North Main Street and the adjacent properties. So it's an honor to speak before you this evening. A little bit about myself, briefly. I was born just down the road at Crittenton Hospital. I've worked and lived in Rochester my entire life. I'm honored to provide cardiovascular, internal medicine, and primary care to this community, and I've done so for the past 10 years. And I'm proud to be a part of a medical institution that has served the community for 50 years. I live 7 minutes from City Hall, and I choose to live and raise my 4 children in Rochester. Like you, I believe that Rochester is a special place. It's a place for family, it's a place with history and traditions, and a place that we must all do our best to preserve and protect. I'm here today to ask you to allow us to do the same, to preserve and protect our existing parking lot at 543 North Main Street. I sat here several weeks ago and listened to members of the community, some invited and some not, suggest that we're attempting to put up gates that belong in prisons and to create an unwelcoming environment. But as you and I both know, that is simply not the case. Just like the City of Rochester parking structures and many others, we would like to secure the lot with modern and quick-use kiosks that you saw in these pictures today. These kiosks will enable us to secure the parking lot, to improve public safety, and to generate revenue to defray the cost of maintenance. As it stands, the parking lot is completely unsecured. It has been a site of vandalism and misuse for years. Some of the challenges we face do pose a risk to public safety. These include unidentified and unauthorized vehicles for days and weeks at a time. The parking lot has become a gathering place for late-night meetups, skateboarding, recreational drug use, and drinking. There's substantial trash left overnight, empty beer cans, bottles of alcohol, cigarette butts, graffiti that is difficult and costly to remove. There have been repeated threats to our staff, medical personnel after hours. Vandalism, including cut electrical lines, smashed glass, and property damage. Trespassers use the dumpster, and displaced persons and the homeless seek shelter. Securing the parking lot will solve these problems. We'll know who's coming and going. We'll have a record of their license plate number. We can ultimately enhance other security features with lights and cameras. This improves safety and security for tenants, patients, and customers. This improves safety and security for downtown Rochester as a whole. An unsecured parking lot hurts local business at 543 and the adjacent properties. There are times, as you saw, where tenants and patrons simply cannot find parking in their own parking lot. This hurts their ability to do business. Securing the parking lot enables us to provide guaranteed parking for the local businesses at 543 so they can continue to thrive. 543 is the home to the Rochester Medical Center. At RMC, we provide critical medical services to the people of Rochester and our local community. Securing and improving the safety of the parking lot ensures appropriate handicap access, guarantees parking for the sick and vulnerable of our community seeking health care. It is critical to mention that parking at 543, specifically in front of the Pine Building, is generally accepted and well known to be overflow parking for all community events at the Rochester Municipal Park, as well as free parking for downtown Rochester. As Arts and Apples approaches, most, if not all members of the Rochester community anticipate using these parking facilities. Parking at 543 for Arts and Apples has been specifically advertised by the City of Rochester in the past. Vendors have been told to park at the Pine Building, and the lot itself has been included in parking maps and promotional materials. I know this because I worked in these parking lots during Arts and Apples for many years, since grade school, and in high school, and in college again. Many community members actually believe that 543 and the adjacent properties are public parking. It's been documented on the record at many city council meetings over the years, including the most recent one. Without question, the 543 parking lot has been used for decades as public parking. This causes damage. The truth is, it's not public parking, and the cost of maintaining this lot as a public facility is not feasible. Securing the parking lot enables us to maintain it so we can meet the existing and growing demand for parking at the municipal park and in downtown Rochester now and for years to come. It's our desire to work with the Planning Commission and the City of Rochester to improve and secure the parking facilities. It's in the best interest of the community and local businesses that we do so. Our goal is simply to improve the security and safety of our community. I trust that is your goal as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice information presentation. Is there anything further from you, Dr. Ortella?
No.
Okay, if not, we welcome getting the new information, and as soon as administration has kind of gone through the review, we'll have it on a future agenda, and look forward to seeing you again there. I don't think there's any further action needed at this point in terms of we're going to get more information. There's no table action necessary.
Can you clarify the status of the traffic impact study?
I could tell you what I heard the planner saying. He said based on the significance of this project, a traffic study would be required.
She also mentioned earlier that medical use office space is not required. Why would it apply to us and not the other facility?
I think it was the significance, not the use specifically, but that would be something to clarify through administration. I would say, based on what I've heard tonight, it would certainly be reassuring to have an independent traffic study person talk about the stacking before entering into the lot. The parking layout, really not a big deal, but the stacking potential is something I would want to have some reassurances is okay in some expert's mind. I did hear Dr. Talla say it's not a big deal, but I think talk with administration and they'll kind of feed you through the process with video. Yeah, hopefully that helps. Anything you want to add to the comments tonight, just so they're fully informed on what we're expecting at the next meeting?
I have comments. I have lots of concerns with what has been proposed. I think most of them were hit on, and we don't have to go through it again. It sounds like you're going to propose or provide a lot more information in the future. Just a couple of things that I want to make a comment on too. You've referred to the public parking garages several times, comparing it, and I just want to note that I think there's a fundamental difference between a public asset and a private parking lot. A public asset, we can strategically place those. They're managed by the city. We also have the right to choose the operating hours. We can pick what the cost is to park there. Our emergency vehicles have direct access to those things. We manage the technology for those gates. There's a lot of difference. When it's private, also all the revenue we bring in from those parking garages are then turned over or put back into the city and infrastructure. So there's a huge difference between a public parking garage and then a private parking lot. We have no say over any of that. So I just wanted to clarify, to me, those aren't apples to apples. I have a lot of concern too with how fire, EMS, trash collection, deliveries, all of those things are going to work. We didn't have a lot of that, so I hope to see that in the next iteration. Also, if the technology fails, who's responsible for that? How is that going to be managed? We said the traffic study, MDOT input. The other thing I'd be curious about too is if your tenants and business owners have said anything. I can't imagine that they like this. I feel like it's very disruptive for their businesses. The same thing with their deliveries, the packages, all of that. So I'm just curious if you've had any consultation with the business owners. Personally, I parked in one of your parking lots and saw the candy shop that was in the back, the kids' candy shop with my kids. I wouldn't have known it was there if I didn't park in your parking lot. So I actually think when you highlight all the events and how much traffic you get, that's great for your businesses, right? A lot of times you don't see behind there. I get there's a huge cost though too. So I'm just saying, I think there's pros and cons to all of that. And that's part of being part of downtown, right? Is the traffic and the foot traffic and all that. So anyways, those are just some comments and feedback. And then I would also say, I just think the whole process really disappointed in how far it's gotten. And I get the Planning Commission, we approve site plans, we review site plans, we don't directly order the removal of them. But I do think I'd like to formally request that the city administration enforce our zoning ordinance in this case. Since the developer has proceeded with construction of the gate infrastructure without site plan approval, I believe the unapproved work should be removed. Unless an approved plan is in place, I think this ensures consistency with how we've handled these situations in the past and these violations, especially the ones that are encroaching on public property. I know, Nick, you said in the beginning of the meeting that you didn't ask him to remove it because he has a right to ask city council for approval. I agree with that, but he has a right to ask before he does it. There's a process, right? And if we start letting people get away from that process, there's lack of trust, right, in our administration, in us, and what we're doing. And so I think I would formally request that we enforce our zoning ordinance in this case, especially on the city property, but for the whole project. I just don't have a lot of trust in it. I don't think we have enough information to just allow it to continue or sit there. And so those are my comments.
Thank you for that input. I would say that there was brought up maybe the property line isn't where we think it is. So I guess that needs to be vetted or clarified a little bit.
That's true. Yep.
But excellent points. I appreciate that. Anything further on this end of the table?
Just very briefly, I'd support Commissioner Clauser's viewpoint there, except that it's very unclear based on Dr. Attulla's presentation where the property line is. I mean, the city said one thing, Dr. Attula says another thing. I'd be much more firm to support what Commissioner Clauser just said if that were clear. I think we'll figure that out next time. Since there was a legal argument sort of presented in summary form at the beginning, if it's all right to request from the city administration, I'd like some very clear guidelines for the next planning commission meeting in terms of what is or is not required for permitting, what is or is not required for approval by the planning commission, and where those property lines are, so that we can make some informed decisions.
Excellent. Good points. Going back to Vidya's recommendation, I think we've covered all of what she suggested we do in terms of asking for additional clarified information. So I think that's satisfied. Vidya, do you agree? I'll take the silence as
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Very good. So we're not going to take any action, but I will let the public know I'm not going to ask for any public input or allow it, but a couple items down, there's public comment, so you'll have a chance if you needed to. So with that, I'm going to move to the next item. Oh, I just exited from my agenda. Going from memory, I think it's miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous from the commission? Anything administration would like to offer?
Thank you. The mayor had suggested that maybe Vidya does a training for not only her, but the rest of the planning commission, since we have a few newer members on board that haven't done a formal, just kind of planning 101 type of training. So I have a few dates that the mayor had, or that Vidya had laid out. Off the top of my head, I don't recall them, but they would be on a date that's not a regular planning commission day. So I will send out an email poll. Feel free to respond with the date that might be best for you, or multiple dates, and then we'll get something on the books.
Excellent.
I would say Vidya also, she's does this training how many times a week, Vidya, but for Planning Commission, City Council, ZBA, so we can put it all together so everybody hears the same thing. I think that's a good idea. So we'll find a date for us all.
Okay, next item, public comment. Anybody have any comments? Rose, is there anyone still online possibly that has any comment?
There is no one online.
Excellent. So thank you all, and thank you for staying to the end of the meeting. Appreciate it very much. And to the commission, the same thing. I'm going to